Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Smart Indian Agriculture on the Federal.com. I am Vivian Fernandez. From the 2nd of October, all fertilizers will be sold under common names under the One Nation, One Fertilizer policy. There will be common brands such as Bharat Urea, Bharat MOP, Bharat DAP, and Bharat NPK, the second part of the brand names denoting the composition of their nutrients. Under this policy, companies are allowed to display their names, logos, brands, and product information on a third of the bag. The rest will sport the new labels and the name of the scheme, namely Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Urvarak Pariyojana or PM-BJP for short. There's another scheme which incidentally also has a similar abbreviation, which is not so accidental, I would imagine, which is Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. What are the implications of this policy for fertilizer companies, and will it affect the quality of fertilizers sold? To discuss this, we have with us Mr. Sanjiv Kanwar, Country Manager, Yara, India. Yara is a Norwegian company with a history that goes back to 1905. It has operations in 60 countries and sells in 160 countries. His focus is mainly on horticultural and plantation crops, with the acquisition of Tata Chemicals' 1.2 million tons per year urea plant at Babrala in UP in 2018. It is addressing broad acre cereal crops as well. Sanjeev, thanks for making the time, and it's good to have you on this show.
Thank you, Vivian. Many thanks for having me on. Good to see you after 3 or 4 years. Yeah, it's been some time. Yes.
Sanjeev, do you agree with the One Nation, One Fertilizer policy?
Well, I would say that we should look into why the government is looking at bringing in a One Nation, One Fertilizer policy. I think if you look at over the past several years, the subsidy outflow on fertilizers has been rising year on year by a significant number. And this year, I think it's going to hit about 220,000, 230,000 crores because of highly volatile fertilizer markets in the global level. Whereas at the farmer level in India, the subsidized fertilizer prices have not really gone up. So the entire burden of cost, additional cost that's being borne, is being taken up by the government from its budget. So I mean, if you look at what's happening, where the money is actually going to be spent, is also that there is a fair amount of money that is spent on freights, on transporting from A to B destinations. So there is a freight subsidy element also. So I think what the government is trying to do is to optimize the freights and see if there's some savings coming in. And let's say you have a production unit in state A and supplying to state B, whereas you have another production unit in state B supplying to state A. So there is some kind of crisscross freight movement that is happening, and that maybe is driven by the company brands to some extent, possibly.
But Sanjeev, does the government not control the movement of fertilizers as well? It decides where the fertilizers are going to be sold.
With that. Yes, I agree with that. The government actually largely, at least in urea, they control it in terms of P&K. I think you're allowed up to 1,400 kilometers freight subsidies allowed. So I think the government is just trying to optimize it, and as per the government's calculations, about 6,000 crores is what is going to be the freight saving. So I think let's face it, to control the runaway fertilizer subsidy, if there's a way of managing it better, I think that's what the government's approach is. Of course, everybody would like to have their brand. There's no doubt about it. I think all companies are, I would imagine, have worked to develop the brands. So, but then I guess since that's a notification that's been issued by the government, so we have to abide by that.
But Sanjeev, does branding make a difference? After all, farmers buy fertilizers based on price.
Yeah.
So does branding make a differentiation?
I would say yes. The branding actually comes into play, Vivian, as per my experience, comes into really good play, especially during the off seasons. When the fertilizer demand is down, then if you have a good brand established with the farmers, then I think the farmers tend to move towards that particular brand. And of course, the brand actually stands for what the company stands for, and it's how you. It's not only the brand. I mean, the quality gets associated with that particular brand, right? So the brands do have a role to play. There's no denying that. And then we see, I think this is an early stage. I would say that the government has, just to let you know, the government has recently said that the P&K's fertilizers will not be on the, it's in the first phase. They will not be on the one nation, one fertilizer brand at the moment. And maybe the government wants to run the pilots, and then we take it from there.
Now, let's take the case of urea. It is 46% nitrogen. Now, what does branding do? I mean, what kind of differentiation or difference can branding make? After all, it will remain 46% nitrogen. It's not as if you can reduce the amount
Yeah, I
of
mean,
nutrients in
let's
it.
say, of
Or
course, there is.
no, does it mean that with branding companies provide better service? What kind of value add do the
Absolutely.
farmers get?
I mean, when you have the branding, let's say, even if they look at the quality of the product, I mean, we have many players in the business who have a very good prill quality of urea. I mean, it's we have to accept it that some of the producers have a good quality of prill, lower gas usage. I mean, they're much more efficient plants. So for the farmer, I think the farmer looks at then also how you promote the brand at the farmer level in terms of promotional activities. Then also the farm you when you have the main brand as it could be AYZ brand, it's also a touch point with the farmers. I mean, it is a touch point. Let's say India consumes about, let's say, 32 to 35 million tons of product of urea. So it becomes a touch point with the farmers in which you communicate, and that also, I would say, helps in communicating. Let's say talking about balanced fertilizers, because let's say majority of the urea producers are also sellers of phosphates and potash, whether imported or domestic. So it helps has a cascading effect on that also. So I would say that in time to come, we see how it pans out, how the farmers also adapt and accept the new brand, the common brand that is there, and how it affects the overall movement of the product. I mean, we also need to see the government's perspective. As I said,
No,
the government,
Sanjeev,
yeah.
Sanjeev, in a particular area, do farmers have a choice of brands? And if they have a choice of brands, do they exercise that choice in the sense that do they prefer, let's say, the urea or the MOP or the DAP or one particular company over another?
I would say yes. I mean, if you walk into any market across India, you will go into any fertilizer shop, you will have multiple brands available, and the farmers would certainly be able to would decide which brand they want to buy. Like, I mean, that's like some of the brands have been around for almost 50, 60 years, and they're very popular. That is there. I mean, some the farmers have that choice certainly. But I would also mention on the Bharat brand is that the Bharat bag will also carry the name of the producer or the importer. That will also be there. So I think once it is
Yeah, that's
rolled
not
out,
a third of the bag, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
But what
So
I'm
the name
saying
of the
is when
producer is
farmers exercise the choice, why do
yeah,
they do that? Because if the underlying product is undifferentiated,
yeah.
why would they do it?
I think they do it because they maybe let's say it's because the services that have been provided by the organization, by the producer or the marketer for some time, and also maybe the length of time that the brand has been there in the market also. I mean, that also is there because if you look at the structure of the industry, some of the producers have been around for almost 50, 70, 80 years, and some have been around for 25, 30 years. For example, us, we've been around for 4 years. So we are a fairly new brand in India, whereas you have a lot of other players, highly respected names who have been there for a long, long time. So the farmers would certainly have a preference. They certainly excise that also, which is good. Yeah, that's it.
See, the landed price of a 45 kg bag of urea is about rupees 2,500. It sells for 268.
Yeah,
The rest is subsidy.
yes,
Similarly with DAP and MOP. So
absolutely.
because of the huge subsidies on these fertilizers, you think that the government is justified in having common brand names?
Well, I wouldn't comment on that, but I mean, all I can say is that The government has its reasons, which I explained, but what they have been explained to us, that that's the way the government wants it to do. And there are some benefits in terms of reduction of subsidies when the government has to look at that aspect, definitely. So,
See, if there are no downsides for the company, if whatever this supply gets sold, then why should the companies do anything to improve the quality of a product? For example, we had a guest on our show some time back, a fertilizer expert, who said that there is not enough neem oil going to coat urea to reduce the leaching of urea. Okay, now in a situation like this where you have a common brand, they might just dilute neem oil with some other oil and pass it off as neem oil. I mean, why should they bother?
I think that would be a bit difficult for people to do that, because you have the fertilizer control order, you have that mechanism which takes care of the quality, etc., etc. I think that would be very difficult to manage. So, I mean, uh, why should I maintain my quality? I mean, I'm talking as Yara. Why should I maintain my quality going forward? And I'm certain, it's sure it's the same for all other players in the business. Is because we cannot supply something which is not of the right quality to the farmers. And the second one is that we also have a stake in the bag, right? It also carries my name. It also carries the brand, Yara or brand, whatever is the company. It carries my name. So I don't think there will be any dilution in the quality. And keep in mind that these are mineral fertilizers. So it's a chemical formula. So if you don't meet that chemical formula, the product will not get produced at all. I mean, it will not be there. So these are chemical, these are mineral fertilizers. So you simply cannot play around with the chemistry. And I cannot produce a urea which is 43%. It is not possible. It will not be, the pill itself will not get formed. So I don't think there will be any dilution in the quality.
Okay.
Definitely
Sanjiv,
won't.
moving on, 4 years back in 2018, when you announced the acquisition of the Babrala urea plant, I was there at the press conference, and your predecessor, he was saying that Yara does not sell products, it sells solutions, nutrient solutions, and you have customized products for various crops so that farmers do not have to buy a kind of a set menu. They can, I mean, instead of buying a la carte, they can have a set menu for various crops, whether it's sugarcane, whether it's paddy, wheat, or plantation crops. Now, how successful have you been in selling customized products in this country? Do the regulatory procedures allow you to do that quite easily?
Yeah, okay. Let's address it one by one. So when it comes to the customized solutions, what we have is a crop program which we offer, which comprises of the products that we feel would deliver value for the farmers. And be it a broad acre crop, which is like sugarcane, or be it like a horticulture crop like grapes or pomegranate or apples, that is certainly being made available to the farmers. And it's not that we just leave it on the retail counter and stop it. We work very closely with the farmers. We're an extremely farmer-centric organization. I mean, we have almost about 300 colleagues out in the market, and out of which about 50 are commercial economists, and the balance 250, a major chunk of these 250 colleagues of mine, they are agriculture graduates, and they come from rural backgrounds, majority of them. So that makes it that much easier for us to connect with farmers. And we do a lot of training program. I will just share with you, in the last 15 days, we have done my team has done almost about 500 meetings pan India. Like it's part of our DNA to go out and talk to the farmers to promote, because unless the farmers start to use it on their fields, they won't see the benefit, and then they will not realize the full potential of that. So that is certainly being made available to almost about 15-20 crops that we're very focused on. And we see the benefits. We have seen the increase in farm productivity by almost 30 to 40% with sugarcane farmers who have been using our recommendations on the menu. And we see the same in grapes and in other tomatoes, potatoes, you name it. And I would actually welcome if you want to join some of these farmer meetings, see for yourself. And that's what I always feel. I don't just take me on my word, just go and see what we do at the farmer level. And you will also feel, yeah, this is something which is interesting and talk to the farmers
No,
who
I'll
are
certainly
there.
take you up on that offer.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, can
We
we
should
say
do
that
that.
you're mainly focused on horticultural crops, fruits and
Yeah,
vegetables, because that's where the value addition lies, and not so
absolutely.
much on cereal crops like wheat and rice?
Well, I would say that when it comes to the field applied specialty fertilizers, there's FNV, fruits and vegetables, are our target crops. But when it comes to the wheat and paddy, we try to support the farmers by using high quality of micronutrients. And let's say we have to keep in mind, Vivian, that our farm productivity is almost about 40 to 50% lower when it comes to cereal crops as compared to markets such as Brazil and China, which is a bit alarming because you're using more fertilizers, still not your nutrient use efficiency is coming down. And also keep in mind that let's say we use three maybe three times more water to produce 1 ton of cereal crop as compared to Brazil and China, which means that sustainability can become a core issue. Water can and is a core issue going forward for us in India. We need to improve our nutrient use efficiency, and we need to look at ways and means of improving our farm productivity. So with that portfolio management or that portfolio offering of portfolio to the farmers is definitely there, and I think we really working on that, and we've seen an acceptance in the farmers with the farmers on that. And coming to the second part, the regulatory side, I think there is the challenges on registration of fertilizer products in India continues. I think it takes almost 3 to 5 years. This is as per the World Bank report, which came out in 2000, I think so, or 2001. And sorry, 2020 came out, in which it was that we are pretty low in terms of we take a long time as per a survey done as compared to other countries to register new fertilizer products. So if that could be eased up, then it becomes easier for organizations to innovate and bring in new fertilizer products into the market, which are geared up to help farm productivity as well as the quality of the yield, which is where the real margins lie for the farmers. Because for the last 15, 20, 30 years, we have been very, very focused on the commodity fertilizer, the subsidized fertilizer, the ureas, the DAPs and NPKs, which is fine, which you need to do. But I think now the time has come that with the soils the way they are, the micronutrient deficiency that we see, unless we come out with new variants, we don't, unless we innovate, we will not be able to improve our farm efficiencies. Like a
So
small example.
can we say that the products that you sell are not only crop specific, they are area specific as well, and you decide on the kind of soil composition, and you sell customized products not only for crops, but depending on the cycle of the crops, something for the time of sowing, something at
Absolutely.
the during the mid period, and something at the time of harvesting?
Absolutely. It's not, I would not say we are crop specific, but we're certainly timing specific. And the way we work is very simple. That let's say if it's banana, then we try to understand what is the nutrient removal of the banana crop, right? What is the nutrient removal? And then whatever is removed has to put back into the soil. Only then you will maintain or improve your productivity. So we work on that concept. The product might be the same, but the quantity can vary depending on what we assess is the nutrient requirement of bananas, or it varies from crop to crop. We do that.
But
So
for farmers to put back into the soil what they have taken out of it, they should
yeah,
actually do the testing of the soil. In India,
they
I
do
don't
that.
think farmers care very much about soil health and soil testing.
Yeah, there is. I mean, some farmers do. I would say that fruits and vegetable farmers, they tend to be more inclined towards the soil test. The cereal farmers are not that much inclined towards that. That's been my experience. It may be different for other people. That's fair enough. But that's absolutely correct. But that's where this knowledge about nutrient, what is the removal from the soil to produce 1 ton of banana. If we have that knowledge, then basis that also we can give a recommendation. Okay, this is what you need to use to produce a good quality banana. So we can run with that. I mean, so you have a soil test report that is excellent. That really helps us in making a very firm and clear program. But even if you don't have that, basis the nutrient removal, we can always discuss with the farmers and say, okay, this is what the recommendation is. So you go ahead and do that, and that is going to, and it works. So the farmers are getting the benefit, and it's really, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Sanjiv, agriculture is one of the main contributors of greenhouse gases. And we find that in the case of fertilizer, there's a lot of inefficiency. For example, in urea, the nitrogen use efficiency is about 40%. So as a company, as a progressive company, and also as a Scandinavian company, which is focused on climate change and all that, how do you ensure that the fertilizers that you supply are used in a sustainable manner? How do you ensure that there's less leaching and less greenhouse gas emission?
Yeah. Okay. The starting point is at the production unit in Babrala. It's, let's say we're talking about urea. So we have one of the most efficient gas-based urea production unit in India. And so that's a good starting point, that your efficiency levels are so high that, you are already energy efficient. And the second part is, again, let's go back to our farmer connect, the farmer centricity that we have in our operations. And there have been many instances where we have told farmers, if you're using 3 bags of urea, we look at our program and say, no, you don't need 3 bags of urea. You need to use only 1 bag of urea. So we have actually gone ahead and done that. And the farmers initially, they don't kind of, I'll be honest, that they kind of don't believe it, that why are you telling us, you produce urea and telling us not to use too much of your own urea? But that's the right thing to do. And the farmers obviously will see the benefit, and when they see a better crop. So that's one part. That's the way we operate. It's embedded in our DNA that we need to tell the right application has to be applied at the right stage, and that's it. So we are very firm on that. Third part is obviously we need, let's say, if there is some innovations allowed, let's say on the regulatory side. For example, Vivian, let's say you would agree when I say that almost about 80% of Indian soils are deficient in zinc and boron. Almost 80%. So what we feel is that you could use urea as a carrier product, or a DAP or NPK as a carrier product for delivering zinc and boron to the soil, to the crop. So let's say if you are zinc, you could coat it with you coat urea with zinc, and then you can apply it. But then there are regulatory issues on that. We're running some trials at the moment, and in India, because we do this stuff, we do this coating of commodity products with micronutrients globally, and we see that it's really helping the farmers in many in Asia. Let's say if we talk about Asian countries, we do that. So we are running some trials in India on that for the last couple of years now. I think they're coming to a closure. We see initial feedback is the trials are pretty positive. They have to be, because they work in Philippines, they will obviously work in India. So once we have the regulatory approval in place, that's the next step. That if we can do that, that means that urea also gets much more efficient, and the crop also gets the zinc and the boron. Like, I would love it if we have a situation where we sell zincated urea on paddy and boronated urea on wheat. So we could have that available to the farmers, and then we will see the farm productivity go on. So
No,
these are
I would. Do you assure your farmers that if they use your products, they will get a certain higher amount of yield? I'm not saying a guarantee, at least an assurance. And do you try to, pricing policy, do you factor in that upside and take a little bit of that to yourself?
I would say, let's say, when it comes to one of the USPs that we have is that when the farmers, the first time farmer of a Yara crop program, we spend a lot of time, to convince that this is the way to go ahead, and because our products are not subsidized, and we don't want them also in the subsidized area, because it's easier that way, and it's better to sell on the quality, and it's better to sell the product on the basis of the quality as well as what it does in the farmer's field. I think that's more important. And so when the farmers use it initially, they try to figure out whether it's really going to help or not. But I would say very proud of it. I've been in this company for 25 years, and we've been on the ground in India since 2011, almost 11 years. We have always got a positive feedback from the farmers on the productivity, on the impact it has had. And some farmers even come back and said that the kind of feedback that we get is that when we use your program, the virus intensity of virus attack on the crop was lower, which because you're healthy. If the crop is healthy, like it's just like you and me, right? You eat good stuff, you will not fall sick, right?
So
Same thing.
do you try to claw back a bit of that upside that the farmers get?
Well, I would say that our prices are benchmarked to the global prices when it comes to specialty. So if the global prices are up, it's up. If the global price come down, it's down. So I mean, it's not about we don't per se say, okay, this costs $100. Now we'll charge $105, $5 towards the premium and blah blah. It's not like that. It's like it's benchmarked to the global prices, and whatever we have, we make it
So in your
available.
product mix, how much of what you sell is sold in the form of commodities, let's say urea, and how much
You,
of it is customized fertilizer?
I would say I wouldn't call it customized fertilizers. I would just call it specialty fertilizers. To be clear, let's say the at the moment we do about 1.2 million tons of urea, and we do almost about 8 to 9% of that of the total sales is coming from specialty fertilizers. So about 75 to 80,000 tons would be a specialty fertilizer sales.
So
But
urea
it's more
is the
fun to sell.
base.
Yeah,
So
urea is
urea
the
is the base, and to that you add micronutrients and others as per crop requirement.
absolutely right. So we play with that. And it's not that we sell only where we're selling urea. No, not at all. I would say 50% of the business is sold is done in the fruits and vegetable segment, which is not in the urea territory, right? In the 5 or 6 urea states that we play, no, almost 50% of our specialty products is sold in the non-urea territory because that's where the fruits and vegetables segment are.
Yeah, we were talking about increasing the efficiency of fertilizer use. Now, apart from applying, let's say, urea in the form of granules and all that, are you persuading farmers to use other forms of fertilizer, water soluble, for example,
Absolutely.
foliar sprays?
Absolutely. Absolutely, we do that. I mean, we have the water soluble fertilizers like a triple 19 or a triple 18 or 114211. Then we also have the micronutrients are obviously foliar application. So we certainly recommend that, and we see a good benefit out of that. I think India will be a very good market in the coming years for fertigation products because the government is putting in a lot of effort. The government has a policy in place by which they want to increase the acreages from 10 million hectares under fertigation to almost 25 million hectares by 2025 or 2026. So one would say, will it happen in 2025? Well, even if it doesn't happen in 2025, it will happen in 2027, 2028, which means that the area under fertigation will go up almost 2.5 times in the span of 5 to 7 years, which is highly commendable. And we beginning to see that it is happening. And that will open up a lot of opportunities for high quality fertilizers to be sold in India to the farmers, because the farmers, when they move towards fertigation, they need 100% soluble products, and then they get compensated by a higher yield and productivity, which means a better return for the farmers. Yeah.
So there's a lot of concern in our country about soil degradation and the fact that farmers just apply chemical nutrients, but they do not care about the other aspects of soil. For example, soil texture, its moisture retention capacity, its ability to promote the growth of beneficial soil microbes. What are you doing in that respect? For example, in terms of promoting biofertilizers or even promoting fertilizers or nutrients that increase the effect of soil, that provide a conducive environment for soil microbes.
Well, on that, I think as a global player, we are very well. We are also very concerned about not only for India but for the rest of the world also, and we are making a very concerted effort towards regenerative promotion of regenerative farming, and we have actually acquired a biostimulant producer in Finland, in Europe, and we have also started to supply biostimulants into India. I think over the last 2 years we've been doing that, and going forward, I think that's an area where we are really going to be focused on, because we are, as a strategy, global strategy, we're looking towards moving towards a nature positive food, so which is what we really need in globally as well as in India. So I think it's very much on the agenda, and actions on the ground have been initiated by us globally as well as in India. So, and we believe that the mineral fertilizers and the biostimulants or the biofertilizers, they can and will have to coexist. over a period of time, once we develop a portfolio in the biostimulants and biofertilizers, they will also become part of our Yara crop program that we offer to the farmers, so that it takes care of the soil, it takes care of the crop, and improves the farm productivity.
Mhm.
So
So
that is very
Yara
much.
focuses a lot. Yara focuses a lot on digital and precision agriculture. Now, what is the scope for introducing or getting farmers to adopt these practices in India? Because many of them are smallholder farmers with less than, let's say, 5 acres of land.
I think there is a massive scope, Vivin, for digital farming in India, because and unless, like what we firmly believe in a country like India, unless there's a phygital way of working, we will not be able to make an impact. That is, there are, let's face it, India has 140 million farmers, and there are 2, 3 key areas where the farmers need help. One is on knowledge, when to use, how to use, that knowledge is needed for the crop on their land. Second is weather. They need weather forecast. It doesn't help the farmer that you give him a weather forecast for, let's say, Varangal. It doesn't help the farmer. He needs what is going to happen on his farm, right, for the next 15 days. And the third part is on the finances, on how does he get easy access to finance, either through the retailer or through the bank or whatever. So what we have done is that we've created an app by the name of Farm Care. That app has been created, and we have almost over 8 million farmers on that. So through that, now we've done that in the last 2 years in the middle of the COVID. Now we're trying to roll it out and try to give farm specific weather forecast that we already do. So all the farmer has to do is to pin on the app where exactly what is the location of the farm. Then we're able to give the forecast for the next 15 days. So that helps in him to the farmer to plan the agricultural activities on his or her farm. It's hyper local. Now the next step obviously is to give the farmer local advisory basis the crop that he or she is going to grow. So we're working on that. We're running some POC right now on that, and hopefully in the next 6 months from now we should be able to come up with a hyper local plan recommendation for the farmer to use on his or her plot, not on general and massive. And the third part is on the fintech side. We have tied up, let's say we have an MOU with Unnati for North India, in some parts of India, where they're going to make available loans to the retailers that we are working with. And we are also, I'm not sure if you're aware, we have invested in an agri-tech startup company by the name of fintech, by the name of Jack Kisan in Maharashtra, which specializes in giving loans to the farming community and the rural countries, people living in the rural countryside. So we try to figure out, we try to work with them how they can access and deliver financial solutions to the farmers working, to the farmers, it's not necessarily working with us, but with the with the retailers that we are working with, so that we can somehow help in combating that. So I think overall this will have a good impact on the farming community. And the fourth initiative that we have taken on our own is we again running a pilot on that. To be honest, is on a retailer training program. I mean, you can call it as a retailer crash course, MBA crash course in 12 weeks, in which we take the retailer and his wife, preferably, together, because we also need to bring women into the system, right? Otherwise, 48% of India is women. And unless they get engaged in economic activity, our growth is going to be fairly limited. So we're running a crash course now. I think it's going to start from October. We shortlisted the retailers who have showed a lot of interest in that. Running a pilot again in some 5 or 10 districts of Uttar Pradesh. It's a MSME training program. And with that, I think we are addressing the various parts of business which the retailer is maybe doing it already, but how to do it much better than they are, how to manage the inventory, how to manage the cash flows, how to talk to the farmers, how to sell the right thing to the farmer. That is very, very important. So we started that initiative also. So if we feel that the baseline we know, but if we see after 6 months that it's better, the engagement from the retailer is better with the farmers, then we will roll it out in other parts.
Yeah.
So these are the
So
initiatives.
you're trying to provide a range of ancillary services to farmers so that you can, make your main product available to them. On that note, Sanjiv Kanwar, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much, Vivian.